everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Sober as Fuck. Today we have another very special guest, Miki. She's a good friend of both of ours, but you met her through Reframe, and she's going to share with her story a little bit. Let's go ahead and get her on here. Hey Miki, can you hear us and see us?
Hi, yes, I can.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us, Miki.
Thank you.
We're going to dive literally right in. I just wanted to talk to you, ask you a few questions today. What was the turning point in your life that, made you decide, I've got to get sober, I want to get sober?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Big fan of all the podcast episodes. So I feel like in my drinking world, so much of the reason why I drank was to please other people, to kind of fit in, and, the peer pressure, the people pleasing, that was all part of it. I kind of started to notice around the pandemic, and then after that, when I started kind of drinking at home more, not using it as a social lubricant. A lot of the time I would go out and there would be alcohol involved. So it was like a social thing. Then when I was drinking more every day at home by myself, that was kind of alarming to me. And the turning point really was when I started to not align anymore. I started to not be able to recognize Miki anymore. And I had moved out of Chicago. I had ended my relationship and I was living in Chicago. I moved down to New Orleans, where I went to school, and, not having anybody here, living on my own, drinking became my me time. And I started stealing things at stores, and I started lying more, and I started drinking just before I went to work, all these things, all these bad behaviors. I didn't look like myself anymore of what I was doing. It didn't align. So that was kind of a turning point.
Yeah. And I think you've shared with me before too, you were actually a bartender, if I'm not mistaken, before you got sober, or actually while you were coming sober. Is that correct?
Yeah. The first 4 months I was still bartending. And so I knew, the first day when I stopped drinking, I knew I was done. I knew I had no money. So feasibly, all of my credit cards were maxed. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I knew I wasn't in danger of buying alcohol, but it was a big thing at work to be able to be around it, to be able to drink for free on the job with my coworkers. That's kind of it. Any bar really, but definitely in New Orleans, it was a big part of the culture of just, we're going to drink because we're working, and why not? It's here. It was tough.
And alcohol is so celebrated too. One of my favorite things about you, I have many favorite things about you, but one of my top favorites is that you have a history in performing arts.
Yes.
And you know that I have, I'm not going to say the same history because you do it professionally. I never did it professionally, but we have a love of especially musical theater. And though I don't struggle with any sort of substance abuse, I do have a lot of mental health related struggles. Yeah. And I find that while having this great background and being able to mirror and match and act and socialize and turn that on and off, it can work as your detriment too, because you're really good at putting that face on. And then, you have cast parties, and those are always full of booze. And I've been meaning to ask you, how have you seen that benefit your sobriety and also really work against you when you were still drinking? Because I can see that be something that's difficult.
Definitely. That's so funny you mentioned a cast party. Quick story before I answer that question. I had an artistic director that I was working with in Chicago a long time ago, and she got sober. She was one of the only ones in our, cohort of actors to do it. And we judged her. And I have this vivid memory of one of the last times we hung out at a cast party where she was just, we were both gone. And there's a picture of us that exists. And that was kind of one of the last times she went out. And yeah, that was a big thing, big celebratory thing, obviously. She's a huge, huge inspiration to me. She's like 12 years sober this year, so it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, she was doing it. She was doing it. And no matter what, the masking is huge. It's huge. And yes, I'm an actress. I was acting and singing long before drinking was a part of my life. But it's kind of hard. It kind of blends into this whole idea of me realizing I'm an introvert. And most artists actually are introverts. Most creatives are. And, we put on this act and we go out and we always have to be on. And I think throughout my whole life, I thought I was socialized and raised to think I was an extrovert. And a lot of my drinking, when I would go out to excess, I would drink to excess in order to mask how socially uncomfortable I felt and how I had to, be the loud, brash, life of the party, social butterfly, all these parts of myself that aren't naturally me. Alcohol helped with that. So that I've really been thinking about that, how I need a lot of alone time, and that's sacred to me. And when I'm out, it was just easier to drink. And then noticing when I was drinking alone at home, I was like, why am I doing this? That's when I really noticed it was a part of me.
So do you find that you're actually able to connect with your music more? And what has been the biggest difference between like the art that you put out while you were drinking versus the art you put out sober?
Definitely.
Have you seen any sort of like transition?
Yeah, so during the pandemic happened and it kind of stopped everything. And then I got involved doing like some cabaret kind of nightclub shows where musical theater was involved, along with like pop songs, jazz, etc. I was working with a friend of mine in Chicago, and there were three of us. We were doing kind of these theme shows, like 2021 to 2022 kind of thing. And it was interesting because it was at a bar. My friend worked there, so alcohol was there and easy to get. And I kind of used it as a character. Like I started, the first show we ever did, it was very boy meets girl. And he and this other girl were doing all the love songs. And I was like the narrator who would sit back and comment on them. And so I kind of became a character trait to have a drink in my hand. Very like, all of those Sondheim, ladies who lunch kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm. I love Sondheim. Come on. Now you're just pulling at my heartstrings.
So that was kind of a thing where it became the first couple of shows. I did it as a gimmick, and then it became my warm up. And, I convinced myself and others that liquor would help warm up my voice. And it actually, obviously when you are impaired, you don't really know, you're not in tune with your body as much. I was disconnected. So I was actually over singing, was hurting my voice, belting when I had no business doing it. It kind of is that karaoke vibe, right? When you're just kind of like, I'm singing. And there was one of our last shows where I wasn't as comfortable with one of the songs. I didn't have it memorized, and I would mess up because I was actually drinking during the performance. And I noticed that I had never really done that before. That was like a big, big show for me where I was like, why am I so tipsy that I can't even see the music or the words in front of me? Now I'm very much in tune with myself. I'm able to sing and I don't feel like I'm over singing or shouting my voice out. And it's emotional, you know, and a lot of the time these days I'm creating my own music, and it's I feel very vulnerable when I'm doing it, and being able to tap into that side of me. I didn't have it before. I was just one
That's
mom.
awesome.
Yeah.
I could literally see the change just in your face when you were talking about like the cabaret and drinking and nightclub and, you know, how you were over singing and all that. And then immediately, as soon as you started talking about being more in tune with yourself and, you know, because singing, like anything else, you listen to your body.
Yeah.
I could see your face literally. It almost looked like your face just like lifted and brightened when you started talking about singing now and making your own music. And I thought that was really neat. That was really beautiful to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was going to ask you about. So, a good friend of mine, Saul, who I've also met through Reframe, and you got together and actually have recorded music, and you did an album already once, which is amazing, because I never really got to hear you sing until then, which is incredible, and with Saul. But you guys actually are about to cut another album.
We're working on it.
So, which is amazing. Is this the first time you've done this? Is when you've been sober? Had you done this before? Is this new for you, new territory?
Yeah, really, it is kind of new territory. I tried to start a band with my sister when I was like 11, you know, and so that was like, we did record an album, and I sold it to my friends for $5 on the schoolyard. But I was hustling, but that didn't go anywhere. And this is kind of the first time I'm really in a band. And yeah, Saul and I have done it all virtual, 100%. He has educated himself completely, changed all of his production, hard drive, everything, learned a couple programs. And we cut a full album, and then we released an EP also. So we have 1.5 out there, and then we've done some singles. We're working on our second album, which is not a recovery album. The first one was all focused on recovery songs because that was what we were dealing with. And now we're able to really expand on that creativity, and just the more we get to know each other and see all the things we have in common as well as differences, it's like we can kind of mesh minds with it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So the name of the band is Two Star Dawn.
Two Star Dawn.
What? So give me a little background on that. How'd that come about?
So originally we were trying to put together just our names and like make something like, you know, whatever, Hootie and the Blowfish. I don't know, something like that. Nothing was going well.
One of my favorites, by the way.
Yeah, I love them. So he came up with, we were talking about stars, and we're talking about, you know, kind of space. We like, we're both Buddhists, so we have this kind of spiritual thing in common. So he came up with Two Stars Fallen, and that kind of seemed really pessimistic to me because I was like, we're not really falling here.
That's right.
We're lifting up. We are becoming. And he came up with Two Star Dawn with like kind of a graphic that looks like a sunset. And to me, it looked really Buddhist to me. And I was like, wow, I love this. And so I felt like it matched our spiritual vibe. And it was, you know, positive of like the sun is finally coming up, and here we are, we're pulling off our masks, and we're here. So
that's amazing. That's really cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah.
So there is one thing about you a lot of people don't know that I definitely know, because I've been doing it for almost a year. Coming up on a year, I should say. I'm like 286 days, I think, today.
Show off.
But my friend, I like a good challenge.
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
Me too.
My friend Miki actually finished the 75 hard program. I don't know if I even told you this.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah.
And which I think is just, that's amazing. That's balls to the wall. It's so cool.
Thanks.
But I wanted to ask you about it. Like, what did you, number one, what got you to start it? And also, like, what did you learn? What came out of it? So, you know, once you actually finished it, like, what did you learn about yourself, you know, inside or mentally, things like that? What came about that after you finished it, or and also how you started it?
Yeah, I I love the program, and I'm like, I love that you are doing it so gung-ho. We actually have a common thread of how we started, with our mutual friend, our buddy Kevin. He was the one talking about it a lot, and I had two friends, who I met early on in my journey, who have the same day count as me. We called each other the litter mates. And they were very crucial in my first like 4 or 5 months of recovery, just to know that there were two people on complete different sides of the world who were going through everything I was going through in real time. Of course, there are differences, but it was still like, we're on day 18. How are we feeling today? We're on this, that, whatever. We had a group chat. We connected every day, several times a day. And Kevin talked one of them into this program. So she approached me and she was like, will you do this with me? Because I need somebody to hold me accountable. And I love a challenge. I love a challenge.
There you go.
So I was like, yes, let's do it. I was the only one that completed it. And they won't mind me saying that. It's fine. We decided to choose during the holidays to do it. It was right after Thanksgiving. We were going to start the week of Thanksgiving, but one of them was like, no, we need the turkey.
Terrible
like,
timing.
Whatever. So we started on November 26th, I think, something around there. And so we went through Christmas, New Year's, Mardi Gras, and my birthday. It was like all these big things. I was like, okay, this is going to be hard. And I was about 3 months sober. And I loved it because it gave me something else to focus on. I feel like that those first 3 months, I was very much like, okay, don't drink. And now there was something else. And the hardest part, of course, is the water. I agree with you. The hardest part is the water. But what the water gave me was, I was kind of relying very heavily on NA drinks, NA beers, mocktails, a lot of the sugary stuff in the very beginning. So turning my attention to water kind of really helped me get rid of that sugar and like empty calories kind of stuff that I was consuming, to the point now where I crave water. Like that's kind of my go-to beverage. And it really, really helped me with my hydration and to be able to, if there was a transfer addiction present, that squashed that, and that was my favorite part. That was my favorite part of the challenge, was being able to say, I don't need these sugary juice mocktails all the time, the Shirley Temples, all that stuff. I can have my bubbly water. I can have my still water. And it helped me with habit stacking. So I had a doom scrolling problem. When you wake up, first thing you do is grab your phone, and I would always doom scroll and do all of the social media. And I was very attached to that first thing when I woke up. So what I tell people, a little tip that I give them with the water, is if you're having trouble with it, pour yourself like 24 ounces of water in the morning and attach it to something. And for me, it was that scrolling. So I would drink water in bed and scroll. And that helped me get it going, helped me get my day going with the water. Yeah. And so I finished it real quick, real quietly. It was hard not to eat cake on my birthday, but I did it. And now really what came out of it was being able to keep promises to myself. That's, knowing that I completed it and my cohort didn't. That's okay. No judging. But like the fact that I stuck to it when I was all alone in this, and I'm going to do it all on my own. And I did it. And so now I know that if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I trust myself and I get it done.
I love that you brought that up, because we talk about like being genuine with other people, and we talk a lot about our relationship and being honest with each other. And it's not that people miss it, but people don't talk a lot about how the first person you have to make amends with, the first person you have to be honest with and be accountable to, is yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. I mean, and even like alcohol and mental health aside, it's so easy when it's quiet and when no one's watching to just be like, oh, it's okay. I mean, and it starts out with little things that are not really harmful, right?
Yeah.
But to dive into that deeper, it's we can keep promises to ourselves. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
It's really like holding yourself accountable. At least it was for me. You know, every day it's, you know, it was a question I was actually going to ask you about. You know, we do these meetings throughout the day, but when you're not doing that meeting, who's holding you accountable?
Right.
And, you know, it's really the onus is on us. But that being said, what I wanted to ask you was, you know, do you have, you know, what do you rely on? Do you have a team? Do you have teammates around you that help, you know, hold you accountable? Like when we're not in meetings, or how does a typical day like that look for you, Miki?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have my accountability people. I have a very close-knit group of people I talk to all day. Really close friends, love them. But really what this journey is for me is developing a relationship with myself. Like, number one, it's me. And going back to that first day, the first day that I knew I was not going to drink, that was the first time I had ever made a decision from me, 100%. You know, I told myself I wasn't going to cry. I'm going to try not to cry. My whole life, I feel like I didn't really know if all of my thoughts were coming from me. I really worked so hard to fit in and to please everybody and to do what everybody else was doing. All of the people I look up to, my family, I saw what they were doing, all of their behaviors, and I mimicked them. I was kind of like a monkey see, monkey do kind of kid. And that's why I drank, because everyone else did. And doing this, looking at myself in the mirror and saying, okay, Miki, we are going to make this decision. And this is us doing it, and it's nobody else. That is so profound to me. It is the first time I have ever felt selfish. And that was one of the first things I had to change, reframe in my brain, was that selfish is not a bad word when it comes to who you are as a person, your health, your mind, your thoughts. I am my number one accountability partner every single day. Like, I wake up and it's the first time that I really have her, really. And that is what sobriety means to me. It's my thing. It's mine alone. And it's okay that I am fighting for myself, that I am showing up for myself every single day.
One of my friends told me, and this is not profound to anyone, but again, it was profound to me, that drinking, using, fill in the blank, whatever it is you're struggling with, is a symptom of the problem.
Yes.
It's the first thing that you target and say, I'm not gonna drink, right? Or I'm not gonna use, or I'm not gonna stay in bed all day. Again, whatever it is for you. But it is a symptom of the issue. And what I've seen just from the outside looking in, and with my own mental health struggles, is, you treat the symptom first, right? Just like you go to the doctor and, you have a sinus infection. Well, the sinus infection isn't it's what's making you sick, but it's a symptom of a bigger problem. You treat the symptom first, and then you identify what it is. And it sounds like that's what you identified, right? Like you decided, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm going to hold myself accountable. And in that process, you realized, oh shit, like, I don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I can't trust my thoughts. And story for another day, but I went through a very, very similar situation where, and you know about this, where you're like, I used to use this analogy of saying, like, okay, I really like the color blue. Well, do I like the color blue? Or do I think I just like the color blue because I've been told I really like blue, and blue has been the primary color that's been presented to me? And it's really bittersweet when that light bulb clicks. Like, you get emotional, and you can cry your little heart out on here, please. But the reason it's so emotional is because you get so sad that you don't know the answer to that question, but you're so happy that you realize that you don't know the answer to that question.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a huge dichotomy. And it sounds like you needed to know who you were genuinely, good, bad, no matter what. And in order to do this, you have to literally like strip yourself naked and all your wounds exposed. And that's badass. I mean, that's
Painful, but yeah.
really, it's painful and it's joyous and it's all the things. But when you figure out who you are, you're like, I am my biggest fan. I fucking love me. I'm amazing. And that's really great.
Yeah, you've loved yourself up. That's what I like to say.
Yeah.
You've really loved yourself up, and you've got to fall in love with yourself all over again. I know I've said that many times, and I don't have a problem saying it. You know, I was willing to lose everything to fall in love with myself again. That's what I needed to do.
Me too.
And it sounds like you went through the very similar thing.
It's got to be that way. You know, I just really think it has to be that way.
That's amazing that you found that. That's incredible.
It is. And something that I asked on the last podcast, and I'll ask you too, that takes me back to when you start loving yourself, when you start this journey and you really dive into it, things, people, situations fall off, right? Like doors close. What have you personally experienced with that as far as, I don't want to say expectations, but people, situations that have fallen off that you had a hard time letting go of, or realizing that it wasn't authentic and it just wasn't part of your journey anymore? That can be really difficult too.
Yeah, definitely. I had a lot of friends here in New Orleans and haven't seen them for a year. Just because, not because of anything, minus the fact that there is alcohol in their lives. And that's just something I had to distance myself from. Expectations, I thought that I was going to get a lot of hate. I thought I was going to get a lot of judgment and heat from everybody and questions. Because that's kind of how I felt back in the day when I came into contact with sober people. I judged them. But I haven't really experienced that. Most of the people I tell are really happy for me, but they can't really relate. So it's kind of this thing where I become an alien that is difficult to talk to. Because anything they want to talk about, I don't want to talk about it. And anything I want to talk about, they're not in the headspace to do that. So it's been mutual, the silence and the distance from a lot of my friends, and that's okay. I feel like the doors to communication will open again, you know, when we're ready for that. But there have been a couple friends that kind of took it personally, thinking that I didn't want to hang out with them anymore because of them, where they can't quite separate the substance from themselves. And, and that's really what it is. And I had to realize that they weren't hurt because of anything I was doing. It's just that they can't separate that from their personality, which is something I had to do. For me, I'm big on honesty. It's a big value that I have, and I was not honest with myself for a long time. I just kind of was always in a state of constantly listening to others and lying to myself because I wanted to feel like I had a belonging, like I had a place, and that I would be accepted a lot. I struggled a lot with just being an other, just feeling very othered my whole life. And it was because I did not listen to what was really going on inside. And the more honest you can get with yourself, the harder it is, but the better it is. You really figure out the point of living and being here on this planet and being you.
You're almost a year into this now, which I'm so fucking proud of you, by the way.
Thank you.
It's really cool because you're one of the few people I've actually got to see, because most of my friends, accountability partners, stuff like that, are ahead of me. Being able to watch you literally from day one has been incredible. So I think you shared like first meeting, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you were like right there. It was really close, was it not?
That was my day 8. It was my first week. Yeah.
I've been able to watch that, which has been it's incredible watching your journey, because your transformation has been amazing from when I first saw you. It's incredible. It's a completely different person. But that being said, how has this last year, how has it affected your mental health? How has that changed your mental health from where it was before?
Like with leaps and bounds. Incredible, the change. So I'm diagnosed bipolar 2, which is also something I don't say very often, but I'm not, I'm very proud of it. I love my diagnosis. I love who I am. I have been prescription drug free since 2021, actually. So I was still, I was drinking very heavily in the time, taking these SSRIs, and they weren't doing anything. So I ended up going off of the meds and continuing to drink. But since I've stopped drinking, it's almost like, did I even have these problems? Because I really feel so happy, and so level more often than not. And just learning to self-soothe, I think, has been the biggest game changer for me, and being able to listen when I feel down, or if I feel a little bit manic, out of control, being able to stop and really listen to myself and say, okay, what is actually going on? How can I help in this moment, rather than looking for any other drug, thing, substance to help? Having that help come from within has been huge. And my mental state is great. Great.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I used to lie to myself all the time. You're talking about things you used to do. You would drink and thought you needed it. I was terrible about sleeping. I thought I had to drink to go to sleep. I lied to myself for years. And, now after this past, 15 months, I think tomorrow, now I sleep better than I ever have, than I can ever remember, because of 30 years of just abuse, thinking I needed it every single night. Well, it's crazy. It's absolutely amazing that shift in mindset that happens finally, where you realize, fuck, I don't need this stuff anymore. And, a couple trips to the doctor, and they tell you, wow, what changed? All of a sudden all your levels are back down, or we can take you off this medicine now and stuff. It's like, wow, man, did I really lie to myself for many years? It sounds like, Miki, you kind of went through the same shit. It's crazy.
And really, what the most important thing, if you're listening and you're just starting out, and you realize that if there's like some sort of truth you always thought and it's a myth, and you uncover it and you're like, wow, I was lying to myself, the most important thing is not to feel shame or feel judgment or feel bad that
100%.
You were lying to yourself. That's okay. We lie to ourselves all the time. But to stay curious of like, where did I first hear that? How can I make sure that I never take that advice ever again? That is what's most important. And I love that. I lied to myself a lot, just about being able to be likable. That was really what I was, I was drinking to be likable and to be lovable and whatever, to be a part of the party.
Yeah. It's like I thought it would make me funnier.
Yeah.
I thought I had, that was what made me the fun guy. God, I'm more fun. I am the party now that I'm sober. You know, everybody wants to hang out with me. I am the fun guy now.
Yeah.
It's amazing that, you know, I'd lie to myself before, you know, thinking that that's what I needed to, you know, loosen up. Never needed it. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
You know, I used to tell Ryan all the time, you don't really have any friends. And my circle's small, especially as I get older, but I have tight friends, right? And now, like, just all of the people you can reach out to, because as much as I love you and, you know, we are very honest and transparent with each other, that's a part of you that I'll never truly be able to empathize with. I will never truly be able to understand what it is like to quit drinking and have to check in with yourself like that. Just like, you know, my mental health struggles, you've realized, like, you used to be big on wanting to fix the problem. Well, there's nothing to fix. It's just holding space for people. So to see you have these like awesome people in your corner who you can reach out to, it's all, I mean, it's amazing. No 1, 2, or 10 people can be everything to somebody. And so to have a community of people who you can go to and talk about those things, you can always talk to me about them, but someone who you can share really, like,
We get it.
you know, yeah, like,
Yes.
I feel this today, and you're like, yeah, I fucking feel it too. Like, that is priceless. And I mean, I'm just eternally grateful for all of you and the progress you're making, and it's just great to watch. I mean, sometimes I wake up and I think I never would have imagined all these wonderful people sober and happy and healthy in my life, and it's just really great.
I wouldn't have either.
Me
No
either.
shit,
No.
I wouldn't have either.
It's
I'm grateful for
amazing.
you, Ryan. I look up to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are you ready for the question?
So, inquiring minds want to know, and I'm literally asking every single guest this, okay?
Okay.
So, where is the craziest place back in your drinking days where you peed and the story behind it?
I thought you might ask me this question. You know, I did not have much of a peeing drunk career, actually. That was not always a part of my story. I was more of a faller, you know? Like
That could be a good one too.
Oh,
Please do
yeah.
tell.
Have you ever
Do
fallen
tell.
and peed at the same time?
Yes, I have done that.
Oh, there we go.
That's the story I
That's
want to
the one I
hear.
wanna
That's
hear.
the one we want to hear.
You know, those stories are maybe too blurry for me to give details on, but I definitely peed in bushes for sure. There have been nights where I peed in bushes, which is weird because I was on the city streets of Chicago. So ask me where I found a bush. I don't know. I can't tell you. But I did fall down several flights of stairs. It was a very long staircase.
Flights?
Yes.
Like, not just stairs.
I mean, it's
flight.
one flight, but it's a long flight.
Long.
It was many steps. And it was on my birthday, and yeah, there was definitely some pee involved.
Well, Miki, thank you so much for joining us today. I love you very much. You're one of my very good friends.
Yeah.
I look up to you. But I just want to say thank you. And I know your 1 year is coming up, and I'm so excited to celebrate it with you. Have a very safe trip to go cut your new album, which I'm excited about. Again, 2-Star Dawn. First album is already available on
all streaming
Apple,
platforms.
all streaming platforms.
We're
Sweet.
everywhere. We're on YouTube. We're in Yugoslavia. We're everywhere. If you search
I love
2-Star Dawn, you can find us.
You're amazing, and we really appreciate you coming on and telling your story and being vulnerable. You're great, Miki.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much
Miki.
for having.
Love you, girl. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
And hit that notification bell to get
Boom.
notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby.